Wow! So that's how it all happened.
Yes, that's how it all happened. Dr. Jekyll separated his evil side from his good, putting his evil in a physical manifestation, thus creating Mr. Hyde. And his experiment was a success at the beginning. Dr. Jekyll's conscience was crystal clear, and the other characters contribute to that. How do they contribute to Dr. Jekyll's reputation?
The characters have a strong sense of devotion to him, which emphasizes his reputation for being a generally good person. When Hyde barricades himself in the cabinet for a week, the rest of the household is seen huddling together like a flock of sheep, as it says on page 33, which shows that he is cared about and loved, and Hyde, the other hand, is not very liked.
Right. And apparently Hyde is so evil that people perceive it without even seeing his face. Poole specifically notices this.
Good. And he also affects the characters because he evokes the evil within them, which once again emphasizes the theme of duality of human nature. This contributes to the main theme of how other people influence your reputation also. Sarah.
Also, all the times that Stevenson mentions Dr. Jekyll in the cabinet, no one's really sure if it's Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde. The point of view makes it impossible to be sure.
Right, it's ambiguous.
But it's clear that whichever form he was in, that Dr. Jekyll felt remorse for his crimes and was determined to restrain Hyde in whatever way necessary. And before you say it, this relates to science and ethics, whether or not it's ethical to perform science experiments on human nature.
Can either of you find me a couple quotes?
Well, Poole says on page 38 that he once heard the man weeping like a woman or a lost soul.
Yeah, and on the same page, Stevenson writes that Hyde apparently writes startling blasphemies in a religious book that Jekyll often praised.
Speaking of which, tell me about religion and how it affects the characters. Brooke.
Well, all the characters are Christian, and they repeatedly call on God to protect them from the evil in Jekyll's room. Even Jekyll begs the chemist to find him the drug quickly. On page 35, he says, "For God's sakes," and with a sudden sputter of the pen.
Good. How about in the end? Utterson has a very ironic quote about how Hyde has the body of a self-destroyer. How is this ironic and what purpose does it serve? Brienne.
Well, not only is it ironic, but Stevenson's plays with foreshadowing again because he foretells about Jekyll's demise. Utterson unknowingly, because of his outside perspective, predicts the end of Jekyll's life.
Great. This is also revealed in the letters used to describe the true events of the story, which is an interesting way to end the novella because it provides us with our first concrete answers in the entire thing.
And that's also a perception thing, right?
Right.
I see.
Well, that's the end of the novella. I guess putting it in a modern format made it more helpful, yes?
Yeesh.
All right, let's recap on our 5 themes.
Again?
First, the duality of human nature, made obvious by Jekyll and Hyde, but also in Hyde's effect on others and how it brings out the evil in them. Who wants to explain to me about the next one, science and ethics? Sarah.
Well, Jekyll doesn't know if it's right to play with original sin. It's against his religious beliefs, and he's not sure if he can succeed or not, but he keeps doing it anyway.
Right. Reputation, anyone?
Ooh! Other people influence others' reputations not only by direct conversation and interaction, but also by hearsay and gossip.
Excellent. Religion.
Dr. Jekyll defies his religion by performing experiments, and other people call on religion to rid themselves of the evil man who evades the law.
Right. And lastly, perception.
The story is narrated from an outsider, who is Mr. Utterson, who experienced everything through his eyes. We are outsiders also, so this is helpful and engaging, and therefore nothing is concrete, so we are left to interpret the story for ourselves.
Great. I'm glad we finally got that done. So, you guys will be all right with an essay tomorrow then? What the?
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. My name is Robert Louis Stevenson, and I wrote The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I, of course, wrote other things such as Treasure Island, The Body Snatchers, and something else. I was born in Edinburgh, Scotland. I met my wife in France, and I was sick at a young age, so I traveled the world looking for places that I'd feel better at. That didn't really quite work because I had tuberculosis, so I died in Samoa, but I mean it's further away from Scotland. Anyway, back to The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I wrote this in 3 days. The first manuscript was written, but my wife made me burn it, so the second manuscript was written, and that's what you come to know and love today. Actually, I wrote The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde as a mystery novel, like a detective work, such as Sherlock Holmes or the other genres. So you didn't know who was who from the very beginning, like you do now, but you knew who was who right at the very end, hence chapters 9 and 10. Right as this was published, it was turned into a play, and Richard Manfield played the same role of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde for 20 years up until his death. All he did was change his voice, his physicality, and his facial expressions, and terrorized audiences for 20 years. Also, when The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde was published, Jack the Ripper was terrorizing London streets, and so that made it a very tense environment for The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde to appear. Many other publications of The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde appeared, such as a musical version starring David Hasselhoff. Michael Caine was in a 6-part miniseries on the BBC network. I was interested in the duality of human nature since I was 12. In fact, I wrote my own play, Deacon Brodie, which dealt with an actual case of this bipolar humanation of good and evil. I changed detectives' novels into what they are now. In the beginning they used to be all about blood and gore and inappropriate content, but now they are mainly directed in focus and attention to detail. I hope you like that. Those kids were really working hard on that video. I could tell. And I would give them an A if I was their teacher.
Shut up, Dan.
Action.
This is the prize. Shut up.
Ooh, and it makes it more exciting if we
Don't look at the
experience the
camera.
story through
Don't look at the camera.
an hour.
Is blistered and disdained, which shows how, look, crap.
Okay, hold on, start over.
Yeah, remix it.
Oh, the whole thing?
Yep, the whole thing.
Good guys.
This is Miss Chapel. She's letting us film in her room. She's wonderful.
I don't know how to look at a camera.
Mr. Hyde was nowhere to be seen.